Hi, everybody. It's the Stratosphere Lounge. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge and another technically perfect launch as usual. And it's great to be here uh, in the world of talkies. You know, those of you on YouTube are actually extremely fortunate because if you watch a show on YouTube, you have a much higher opinion about the quality of the show than the people that watch it live. Because a lot of times I get to not a lot of times, most of the time, I have to stop or fix the microphone. I didn't think I'd have to worry about that today. I just started the thing off and started talking, and people were making comments like, "We can't hear you." And the reason I didn't think I had to do that was because I was just in this chair yesterday with this exact same setup. Didn't change a thing. Nothing got changed because, as you know, probably by now, is I was asked at the last minute to do another podcast by my friend, what's his name, Mike Rowe, who basically, you know, Bill, we're in real trouble here, real trouble. My career's on the line. If we don't find a replacement guest, I think they're going to shut me down. And this happens pretty much every week with Mike, but. What can you do? I mean, he's on the team. He's doing his best. So we did a podcast with him yesterday that was actually quite a lot of fun. What am I doing? It's kind of a Memorial Day show, so we had that to talk about, and then I don't know, it's just fun. I'll tell you what I like about the most. I like a lot about Mike Rowe, obviously, but the thing I like most about him is I can make him laugh consistently, and you don't get that on the audio podcast. But I mean, 5 or 6 times when we're doing the taping, I would say something, and Mike doesn't have the decency to laugh out loud. He just you have to take my word for it. Next time I'm going to tape it myself, and I'll just kind of cut it in. I'll do like a version of my own, and there won't be any picture on my end. They'll just be. I'll sync it up, and then you just see Mike like laughing. But I'm just showing off because frankly, I just had a great time. No, so for those of you not aware of the situation, it's not a major situation. I got a call yesterday afternoon that Mike had a guest canceled at the last minute. And they were going to be doing a Memorial Day show, and they said, "Who do we know who knows anything about soldiers and things like that?" Bill. So I got called the last minute and had a lot of fun. It was a little stressful, and only for one reason. And the reason it was a little stressful was because I've got this animation thing to debut in the next several days, and I was going to call Mike and the show and kind of see if I could get on and talk about it. But next thing you know, I'm on deck, and I certainly wanted to do the show. And I thought, I may not be able to come back for a while, so we just kind of edged our way around it. Now I just have to have something in place when the hordes come tramping down, because he said his producer said that when they do a call to action, usually there's a lot of love comes out of that. So, in any event, I'm looking forward to it. In any event, we just had a lot of fun. It looks like it'll be out on Monday. I just a second before we started the show texted Chuck, the producer, is a great guy. He said they're trying to. Sorry, did I say Tuesday? It said they're trying to get it out on Monday. So there it was. Mike does writes a story, records it, and then usually they bring on a guest and talk about the story. Last time I was on the show, we wrote a story about Paul Tibbets, and that led us to talk about the atomic bombs and all that stuff. And then the story he wrote for this one was about the unknown soldier, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington, and I got started because of my Arlington story, which I'm sure you heard before, so a jolly time was had by all. I've done my share of interviews, interviewed a bunch of people, been interviewed a bunch more, but honestly, Scott, I just threw that bottle cap away that's because of you, man. The it's just fun. It's just really really fun and easy. He's just a great guy. He's like the most American guy I ever met. People are asking about what about the Doomcock interview that we shot a couple months ago now. I got a text. I got an email from Doomcock 2-3 weeks ago saying, "Hey, sorry, it's just an hour and a half long. It's the longest thing I've done. I got a lot of post production to do on it." And somebody told me that he apologized on his show about it last week or 2 weeks ago, which he doesn't need to do. I'm having a fun time waiting. So for me, the last 3 or 4 weeks have been just. I mean, I'm just not aware of anything happened. I just wake up in the morning and just render this stuff out and get it done. 90% of it is finished. And I was hoping to have it by the end of this week. Now I'm hoping to have it by Monday, but it's getting there. We have 2 more shots to film, and then it'll be done. Yeah. So that's that. So why don't we kind of dig into the questions? We did the BillWhittle.com first last week. I think we should probably do a Facebook journey. When I get there's something interests me, puts a hook in me, I really just do these crazy deep dives. I just read everything I can read about it. And I saw on a post a couple weeks ago a review of, or not a review, a recommendation to read a book called The Raven about Jim Jones. And so I read that, and I thought that was great. And I read another book about Jim Jones by a great crime writer. And then he was such a good writer that I read his next book about Manson. And when I finished Manson last night, I thought, wow. So I downloaded his book on Bonnie and Clyde. I'm doing the Criminal Minds tour. I shot a show with Zoe yesterday, talking about evil and the church shooting and all the rest of it. And I'd been studying Hitler and Stalin, obviously for a long time, and then I read a fair degree of detail about Jim Jones and Manson, and the 4 of them really have a lot in common. They're very very similar. Some had a larger impact than others, but you could make a pretty compelling case that they're all 4 the same guy, and all 4 of them, the thing about it is it's not like what drove Hitler or what drove Stalin or Jones or Manson. And my contention, having read about them now and spent a lot of time thinking about them, is it's not something that they have, it's something that they lack. There's something fundamentally missing in these people, and the level of narcissism is simply astonishing. It just simply, I think on some level, that's why they achieved what they achieved, because all 4 of them were physically fearless. I mean, they just simply, time and time again, they just basically stared death down. Can't even call it courage, really, because I think on some level they thought nothing could happen to them, not to them. They're the center of the universe. That's why the universe was created. Anyway, I may find a way to put all those things together in the not too distant future. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Friday. Susan Speakman, Bill Whittle, and Mike Rowe. What could be better? That's kind. Thank you. Let's see what we got here. We'll just go through the list, and then if we get any time, we'll go to BillWhittle.com. But like I said, it's going to have to be a short one tonight because I am so close to getting this done. I've just got to get it finished. Has Tim Pool reached out to me? No, I have not talked to Tim Pool. I'll just be as honest as I can be. I've never listened to him, and I don't really know who he is. I've heard of him, obviously, and he's obviously making a big impact. I saw a screen grab of him, but I don't listen to generally to other people's stuff in politics anyway. I listen to Drinker and Doomcock and Nerdrotic and those kind of guys, but I never listen to Ben or any of those cats. Although I've heard tremendous things about him, one of the things that I did do in the last couple days, in addition, while I was down in the pixel mines, sweating over a hot renderer, I just don't have time to listen to him, really honestly. But I hope that'll all change in the near future. But anyway, I did update the research that I had originally done 2-3 years ago. I'll get to the questions. I've got them teed up. I just realized I usually talk about something, and I've got something small to talk about. So I did the math for the animation pitch. The animation pitch, I thought for the longest time the actual pitch would be the animation. It's not. It's the pie chart. It's the where are the eyeballs? That's the sale. And I did the same calculations back in 2019, I want to say. 18 maybe, on the number of views versus video games versus conservative views. I took the top. I did this in both cases. Took the top 5 conservative commentators and totaled up the total views on the last 20 videos they did. So it's semi-scientific. It's not completely accurate statistically, but it's certainly good enough for getting rid of the government work. So I'd go to the homepage and I just look at the last 20 videos in order of posting, total up those number of views, and that was a data point. And I'll tell you what I learned. Not only did I learn, as usual, that the number of gaming votes it's something like 93% of the total of the gaming votes plus the conservative votes. 93% of that number is gaming posts. But I realized something I hadn't realized before, and that is that at least half and probably 2/3 of the total conservative views came from 2 people who really surprised me. This is off the top of my head, but these numbers are close. Forgive me if I got any of this screwed up. And let me just start this, and I'll end this the same way. This is not meant in the slightest way to be disparaging. I just find it interesting, and I also find it tends to reinforce my theory. But it was surprising. So if I've got these numbers correct, in general, roughly, the last 20 views on Blaze TV, which includes Crowder and Mark Levin and Beck. The last 20 videos combined had about 1,500,000 views. The last 20 videos on Daily Wire had 2,300,000 something. The last 20 on PragerU had about 5 million, I think. And then along comes somebody with 8 million. And you know who that was? Any guesses? I'm not going to wait for the responses. Mark Dice. Mark Dice got more views than... Mark Dice nearly got as many views as Prager, Daily Wire, and Blaze combined. And Mark does a lot more kind of freestyle pop culture stuff. He's certainly less, serious than the rest of the guys. So he alone has gotten almost as much as those 3 big organizations. And then do you know who the number 1 political commentator in the entire, at least as far as the ones I could find, is by a wide margin? You know who gets 2.5 times more views than Mark Dice, who gets about the same as Blaze, Daily Wire, and PragerU? Anybody want to guess? I'll tell you. It's Awaken with JP. So Blaze was about 1.5 million. Daily Wire was 2.3. Prager was 5 point something. Mark Dice was 8 point something. And Awaken with JP was 22 million views. 22 million. And what that's telling me is that my fundamental premise is correct, because you've got the serious guys, Beck, Crowder, Levin at Blaze. You've got Shapiro, Knowles, that other guy at Daily Wire. You've got PragerU and all of their people. So they've got like the smallest slice. Then Mark Dice gets about as much as those three combined, and then JP gets 2.5 Mark Dices. And so the number one political commentator by a wide margin, who's getting 10 times the views that Daily Wire is getting. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm, pissing on anybody. These are all people I enormously respect, and they are not only that, they're guys who many of them I know are friends of mine. But it is interesting. It's very interesting that the guy who's getting 10 times what Daily Wire's getting is the guy who walks around in a lab coat that's been cut to shreds, or just does pink hair bits. I mean, it's really telling you something. And what it's telling me is that the internet and YouTube and everything else has changed, which is what you would expect, right? I mean, I've been doing this online for 13 years now, 14 years. So you can either complain about it, or you can recognize it. I'm talking strictly about YouTube videos, right? I'm just talking about YouTube videos. Eric Blake says in capital letters, politics is downstream of culture. Exactly. And the more culture you blend with your politics, the wider you're going to get. So I found to my astonishment that this conservative commentary slice, which used to be 2%, is now close to like 7%. But of that 7%, half of that is JP, and another third of the rest of it is Mark Dice. If you take those two guys out, and then you take the top two gaming guys out, you get something that's a little more like a median. And you end up with 3% of the total views are commentary views, and 96% of them are gaming channel views, and that's where the people's eyeballs are, and that's where we aren't. That's where nobody is. Nobody is there. So that's the pitch. Thank you, Eric. That was nice of you. So I got the data. I got a bunch of bar graphs. I know how to present it. And then, so this is it. This is it, right? We're putting all our money and effort, energy into a pie slice that's at its best 5 or 6% of the total, and no one's talking to the 95%, and that is the young vector. Our slice is getting older, and those people are watching video games because video games gives them a chance to act like conservatives. In fact, I mentioned that to Mike Rowe. I said, I said something along the lines of, Mike, they're hanging out, and they're jumping out of airplanes, they're shooting Nazis, all the fun stuff that makes life worth living. And he said, I think that's what we'll call the show. So anyway, I don't need to run that into the ground again. You've all heard that argument. But I did get numbers, and the numbers were enlightening. When I first saw that the conservative pie slice was considerably bigger than it was a few years ago, I thought that actually weakens my case. And then I realized maybe it does certainly show that even inside the red wedge, the more entertaining you become and the more irreverent you become, the more views you get, like that, exponentially. So that's where I'm hoping to go, and I'm hoping real hard that some people want to come with me on this, because mentioned to Mike last night, not only did I bet the farm on this whole thing, I bet the farm, and then I went down and found some loan sharks and took out some money, bought a second farm, and then I bet that farm too. So we will see. And I just got to get it done, which means I need to run home and get it done. Okay, so let's do some questions. Why don't we? We'll start with Facebook, and then we'll go on. A lot of talk about Mike Rowe. Epic. Awesome. Hello, no, be there. Receipt, Mike Rowe. Guys, for sure, he is one. Yeah, and that's the great thing about Mike, is that is that he is, most everybody I've met is, but more than anybody, Micro off camera is absolutely indistinguishable from Micro on camera. That's why people like him so much. Like I said, I got this. Thank you. Okay, here's a question from Eric Blake. Hey, Bill, here's a fun question involving our love of Shakespeare. Hurrah! A certain classical series intro we all know and love reads, "You unlock this door with a key of the imagination. Beyond is another dimension." I can actually do a decent passable Rudzerling. Unlock this door with a key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound, a dimension of sight, a dimension of mind. Rudzerling never unclenches his jaw. A dimension of mind. You're moving in a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone. Now, as a devoted fan of the Bard, you gotta love how Rod Serling is effectively giving a nice nod to Chorus's charge to the audience at the beginning of Henry V to unlock this door with the key of the imagination, of course, is to let your imaginary forces work. So with that in mind, what are your favorite tales of the Twilight Zone and why? Hooray, that is a great question. Wow, fantastic. Fantastic. Fun question. Yes, I've talked about this directly. We did a Shakespeare show, which everybody watched respectfully and everybody tuned out of. That's fine. I remember doing the Shakespeare show, and the comments were talking about, fishing or something. But when I did that Shakespeare show, I talked about that opening when Chorus comes out in Henry V and basically says, all right, look, we've got this crummy little stage here, here we are. And we're going to tell you a story about a clash of armies, this monumentally important, massive fight of Agincourt where, there's thousands and thousands of knights on the field and armor and all this stuff. And the chorus comes to Shakespeare. In fact, most scholars are convinced it was Shakespeare actually played the role of the chorus on that. On stage, he actually was the actor. But he comes out and basically says, we're going to challenge you to imagine all of this stuff. When you hear about us talking about horses, imagine them, stamping the ground and imagine the size of the battlefield. He's just basically telling them, here's what we're asking you to do. He's preemptively, what he's really doing is he's unlocking the key to the willful suspension of disbelief, because what he's basically saying is, yeah, we know that we've got 6 guys and 4 of them with swords, and we know that this is not going to be easy for you to think of this as the French army and the English army, but nevertheless, since we're telling you in advance, we're kind of challenging you to do it. And so any sense that the audience might have gotten in real time watching, that's kind of cheesy, that's only a few guys. No, he's taken that off the table. He said, yeah, we know, it's kind of visually unimpressive compared to the real thing. But if you work with us on this, and that's exactly what that thing is, if you work with us on this, we will have a fine old time. And sure enough, they do. It's my favorite Shakespeare play by a wide margin, and it's just magnificent. It's magnificent. That's all there is to it. In fact, there's so many Shakespearean quotes that it's kind of shocking to realize how few of the things that you think people said actually said by them as Shakespeare speaking for them. Julius Caesar and Mark Antony and Richard III, all of this stuff. So anyway, which favorite Twilight Zone episodes? I had to worry about this, I don't know, 7-8 years ago now at least. Somebody I knew was a young person, never seen any of the Twilight Zone episodes, and I had to think about if I could show one. They hadn't seen or heard any of them, just heard about the show, knew nothing about it. Which one would I pick? And the one I picked was Eye of the Beholder, I think it was called. That's the one where it's all done very dark, shot very noir, and it's a story of a woman who's gone in for plastic surgery because she's so hideous. And and the whole thing is about, we know you've been through a lot of things, but we still have hope. We think we can make you at least presentable, and then at the end of it, they take off the bandages, and you look underneath, and the bandages come off, and it's a beautiful woman under there, and they hold up a mirror, and she screams, and the nurses scream, and you do these reversals, and everybody is all, the entire, the point is, in a world of monsters, the beautiful person is the outcast. And then at the end, this super handsome guy comes in and says, "Don't worry, there's a special colony for us where no one has to look at us. It's like a leper colony," and they and off they go. And I wanted to pick that one because, to me, I remember that to me was the biggest reversal one. That was the one that really made me go. That actually, of all the episodes I saw, that was the one that most, and I was very young at the time, that was the one that made me really think, like that's profound. That's profound. So that's certainly one of them. There were a bunch of Twilight Zone episodes, and so I'll just tell you the ones that come to mind. Those are usually the ones that make the biggest impression, the ones that you remember. The Burgess Meredith episode with, was it Time Enough at Last or something? Where he's a bookworm and all he does, he works at a bank and he just loves to read. Just all he wants to do is read. He's down in the bank vault. There, all of a sudden, nuclear war goes on overhead. He walks up. Everybody's dead. He's got all the time in the world now to do nothing but read all the books, and he lays them all out. He's got I'm going to go through these this year. I'm going to go through these this year. I'm going to through all these this year. He doesn't give a damn about all the dead people. He's just perfectly happy here. And just as he's ready to get started, he reaches over and he falls off, and the glasses he's wearing breaks. And now he's all by himself in the world, and he can't read the books. And I thought, wow. Speaking of great reversals, I think I might have gone with this one, but I just thought that in this particular case that the Eye of the Beholder one was better. But yeah, a kind of stopwatch was great. The one that probably the most really made me go, whoa, mind blown, was the one with Agnes Moorehead, who's this kind of hillbilly living out in the middle of nowhere in a log cabin, and this flying saucer is this big, this flying saucer. Actually, they don't know it's a flying saucer. These little creatures, like these little robots, come in, and they're highly advanced little aliens, and they start zapping her with lasers, and she's trying to kill them all, and so on. And these things are just horrible, horrible, horrible things, and you're really rooting for her to smash these things because these little invaders are just horrible little vermin. And she finally smashes them and goes up to her attic, and then there's a hole in the roof, and there's the flying saucer that they landed on. She starts smashing that with an axe too, and you're thinking, yay! And then pan around, and on the side of the flying saucer, it says United States Air Force. And you realize that those little guys were American astronauts, and you were rooting for the wrong team. Or maybe you were rooting for the right team. Who knows? Dave Big Booty, it's a cookbook, where the gigantic alien, it was the guy who played Jaws, Richard Keel, was it? Giant alien, come, we're taking all these people. We're taking all humans with us. And why? Well, because we're here to make life better for you. We have a world where you'll be much, much happier. And all these people line up to get on the ships, and they're ready to go. And the book is called To Serve Man. And, To Serve Man, fantastic. And all these people are getting on board this thing. And one guy's been doing his research, and just as the last of them's getting cut off, he's holding up a copy of the book, To Serve Man, and he's saying, it's a cookbook. That was freaking chilling. That's a joke. I mean, that's an episode that takes that entire episode revolves around one play on words, and it was great. Obviously, Terror at 20,000 feet with Captain Kirk freaking out because there's a gremlin on the wing tearing the airplane apart. That's an all-time classic. Most of you know the story that when they made the Twilight Zone movie, that was the movie that What's his name? I'm not gonna look. I'm not gonna look. I got his face right in front of me. Vic, somebody. The Twilight Zone movie where the guy from Combat was killed on the set. Anyway, Vic Morrow, thanks. So on that episode, they remade The Terror at 20,000 Feet. And instead of William Shatner, it was John Lithgow. And I was never a fan of the show. I never watched it, but I did see the excerpts of it. There was one of the closing episodes on Third Rock from the Sun, which John Lithgow was on. And Bill Shatner arrives, and he's like one of the, alien poobahs or something. And then he said, Shatner said something to the effect of, I was flying in here, or Lithgow was flying in here on the way, and how was your flight? It was good, but I looked out the window. There was like this creature trying to tear the airplane apart, and then Lithgow goes, "That happened to me!" I thought that was one of the greatest moments ever. Ever. I loved it. The scariest episode was just mentioned by Fiery Waco. Is it Waco or Waco? Waco, Texas, but a Waco biplane. I'm going to go with Waco until I hear otherwise. The scariest one was... It's a what is it? It's a Wonderful Life. Not It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Great Life, something like that. The one with Billy Mooney. It's Waco is in Texas. Thank you, Waco. Before Billy Mooney became Will Robinson, that episode scared the piss from me. It really did. So for those of you not familiar with it, he's a genetic freak. He's a 4-year-old boy. And he's born with total telekinetic power. He thinks things and it happens. It's a good life, that's it. It's a good life. And so the thing starts off with everybody is kissing this boy's butt. Everybody. Oh, yeah, that's a great day. It's a wonderful day. That's a wonderful idea. What was his name, the character's name? I've forgotten. And basically, it's a room full of people with a 4-year-old, an angry 4-year-old, holding a gun. And if anybody says anything to piss him off, he sends them out to the cornfield. And they become monsters out there, forever. And he turns one guy into a jack-in-the-box. But the part of that really, Anthony, that's it. The part of that really scared me, the part of that was really, really, for me, terrifying was when one of the guys had really upset him and Anthony was leveling the finger, just about getting ready to zap him. And then the guy says, "Do it now, do it now. Kill him now while he's paying it. This is your only chance. Do it now." And they don't. So he turns into a jack-in-the-box. Everybody screams in horror, and now everybody's terrified, and so nothing ever... the rest of them live in fear until they all die. But that's what scared me, was that the sense that... Because that's basically what it says. You've got 5 seconds to act. And if you don't, then it's not just me. It's going to be everybody. That episode where everybody's fighting to get into the bomb shelter was brilliant. And there was a episode that was either based on a short story or the short story became an episode. I don't know which. But the Martians appeared on Main Street, something like that, where a series of events happens and everybody becomes paranoid and it becomes a witch hunt and people are either killed or nearly killed and everybody's suspecting everything else and everything just goes straight to hell. It turns out there was nothing. It was just mob mentality. They made us read that in 5th grade. That was absolutely terrific. And I was just and I think the last one that comes to mind, I remember virtually all of them, but the one, what was it? Oh, I think my favorite episode, actually, was the other Bill Shatner episode. The Martians Are Due on Maple Street. Yeah. That was a great piece of... They're all brilliantly written. But I think the one that I liked the most was the one The other Captain Kirk one, where Bill Shatner and his young wife have their car break down, and they're in a just a cheap cafe, and there's a little novelty thing. It's like Zoltar, You put in a penny and you push a lever, and this little thing comes out, and it reveals your fortune. And Shatner does it at first, just kind of like, "Are we going to get our car today?" Yes. Oh, that's good. Puts in another one, starts asking it all these questions, and that script is so perfect because it's written in such a way that you really believe, as Shatner does, that this thing is able to foretell the future. And his wife is saying it's just superstition, but he's convinced. He's convinced that this thing will be able to tell the future, and just think of all the things you could do if you could tell the future. And she's saying no, it's just superstition. And every time he pulls another prediction out of there, it makes the case stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And finally, he just decides, his wife talks him into. It's not like the thing fails. It's not like it stops working. His wife, it's called Nick of Time. His wife just convinces him that this is evil and bad, and so they walk out. They just walk away from it. And as they walk out, in comes this other couple who look like they've been awake and on speed for 4 days. The guy hasn't shaved. He's all sweaty and disheveled. She's all completely, and he's just desperate. He goes, "Oh, thank God," sits in the booth and he starts feeding these pennies into this thing and starts asking for the next question, the next question, the next question. And these people's lives are ruined by superstition. They're ruined. They're in hell. They're trapped. They can never get out now. They're trapped in hell in this superstitious belief in this thing. And the genius about that episode was, and this is the thing I like to think, I'm certainly not putting myself on this level with it, but the thing that I like the most about the animation I'm working on is it is a textbook allegory. And an allegory is, by definition, a story that uses symbols or hints to talk about something much bigger than the story, and it's up to the reader to try and make the connections that the author is either not allowed to make for whatever political reasons, or because that's what he's doing. So just to give you an example. First of all, I've got a great title sequence. Found a really, really, really cool After Effects template called Ink, and it's nothing but parchment and ink drops. The ink drops dissolve and they show you, like images and stuff. It's just elegant, very beautiful. It'll take, 15, 20 seconds for a head title, because the thing is called D is for Dungeon, but now it's got a subtitle. So D is for Dungeon, and then the next card says An American Allegory. And then you'll have to figure out what allegorical things are actually there. What is the allegory? What do these things represent? And the classic example is, the thing starts off with Zoe, who is a black guy. At least that's what I read on the internet. And you see flashbacks to him living in this wonderful, living, healthy forest. And the thing starts out in this burned out, ruined catastrophe. Everything is destroyed. The river's washed up. Everything's gone. Everything's burned out. Everything's destroyed. Gutted is a good word for it. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it's allegorical. The forest is Detroit, right? And Chicago and Baltimore. That's what the forest is. Because he's my character, who's just along for some, muscle and some smartassery, basically says, what caused this? It's not what caused it, who caused it? Who caused it? And then, so a forest burned down. And then as you get deeper and deeper into it, some of it becomes a little more on the nose, but still, the clear example is they walk across this river that has been dammed by these people, in both sense of the word. And this river used to protect their southern border. I think I said protect the border. I might want to say the southern border. In any event, that maybe I don't need to lay it on that heavy. But across the river, in the territory that they're going into, to seek revenge, because Zoe is just filled. My heart is, my death is in my hand. And And out in the middle of nowhere, on the edge of the forest, is this gigantic entrance, a really ornate gate, and no walls. It's just a gate. And it reminded me, when I started thinking about it, immediately reminded me of all things. It reminded me of that scene in Blazing Saddles where they're riding down the trail and they're in hot pursuit and they get to a toll booth. And the thing is down. And Slim Pickens says, "Oh, damn, somebody ride back to town and get a shitload of dimes." And that was really clever. It was laugh out loud funny in Blazing Saddles, where these guys are in a line and they're waiting because the gate is down, but there's no wall, right? It's just on the road. Any idiot could walk around it, but they don't. So that's what I thought would be a good example as an allegory for the state of our southern border, right? You have gates at Tijuana and in El Paso and Juarez. You have border crossings. You have gates that you have to go through and get permission to go through, but there's no walls. You just walk around them. So this is how the whole thing works. And I've just got a bunch of stuff in there, so we'll see. All right, back to Facebook. Hey, Bill, why not ask Mike to return the favor and be a guest on TSL some Thursday night? That's a grand idea. He said this the first time. He said it last time. He said because what I did was, sometimes the best thing to do is just come clean and just be right out front honest. So yesterday I said, listen, I'm happy to do this. I really enjoy doing it. I was going to call you in 3 or 4 days to tell you about this new thing I'm working on. It's not ready now, but it will be ready very soon. Oh yeah, we'll mention it in the show. And so we talked about it a little bit, and I said, listen, Mike, if I get this main thing funded, I've got a homesteader story set, in the future. It's the history of America set in the future, and I need the voice of a good man. And I said, I really need it, and I've tried and tried and tried. Keith Olbermann keeps turning me down, so I thought I'd come to you and see what you were doing, that kind of thing. I actually pride myself on being able to deliver jokes like that. You got to keep an absolutely straight face, and you got to set it up just right. But if you do, those kind of reversal things are my favorite things. And I think I did 3 or 4 of those yesterday. Mike is so great. He says, "Look, I'm just a B-level celebrity, and this is just this is what I talk about." And I said, Mike, I'm not sure you've made the B-level yet. That got a big laugh. And the other one I was very proud of too was Mike was talking about the relationship between the audience and the performer. And look, Mike, we've both been on stage before. I'm an internationally known political commentary celebrity, and you do that thing, whatever thing you do, and it's fun to play with people who play along on that level, mostly because it's funny, but also because when you got 2 people not taking themselves seriously, it really is something good about that. Okay, so it looks like we got 1 question, 2 questions. Who is Mike Rowe? Okay, more venues to see. Thank you, Deborah Brown. Everybody, so many nice comments. Here's another one from Eric Blake. Trying to see if I missed any. So we'll be going to BillWhittle.com in the very near future, I reckon. All right, so let's see what Eric has to say here as well. You happy now? Yeah. Hail Vectron, Bill, by Vectron's Golden Claw. May your animated endeavors find success as soon as possible, if not sooner. Thank you very much, Hail Vectron. So the plot of the Elon Musk Twitter affair keeps on thickening, with the bot percentage matter leading him to putting the acquisition on hold. So Exactly where do you think all of this is going? Will he end up buying Twitter or not? Um, I don't know, but I'll tell you this. You don't get to be the richest man in the world without being a good businessman. Uh, you, um, you just don't. So when he announced he was going to buy Twitter, I don't know what his net worth is. Last I heard, it was in the neighborhood of 160, 170 billion, something like that. So paying $40 billion for something or more, 42, $45 billion, it's not pocket change. That's, that's at least a quarter, I would imagine, of his total net worth. That's a significant amount of money to spend and spend on a lark, because there's no way that I saw that Twitter was, that I could see. I could see no way that Twitter was part of his large scale plans. Electric cars are. 218 billion, good for him, by God. 208. So 40 billion. So it's a fifth, a sixth at the very least. We got electric cars. I want electric cars. We're going to Mars. Okay, we think that digs tunnels. Okay, we got a satellite connection, internet connection anywhere in the world or other worlds. Okay, all this stuff is in line with SpaceX. Twitter's got nothing to do with it. I think that he decided to buy Twitter because he could. And I think that's because, despite the things that many people disagree with him about, and I disagree with him about many things, I don't know if I'm many, some things, despite all of that, I think it really bothers him on a personal level that people are being censored. And I think when he got called, I know when the state of California basically had a state legislator tweet out F Elon Musk, he said, okay, message received. So Tesla, gone. The number one prestige job in this new green future, this new green economy, electric cars, nope, not in California. That's what that tweet cost you. Honestly, he just basically, he left because he could, because he's not in the mood to take this kind of BS. And I don't know if that tweet, I'm not saying he wouldn't have gone if they hadn't tweeted him, but I can tell you with a relatively high degree of confidence, given how things played out and the little I seem to know about him from watching him carefully, is that when that California legislator said that was, okay, I'm leaving. Well, Elon, it's going to cost us, billions of dollars. Okay, but we're still leaving. Dave Big Booty says, do you think that was the beginning of Elon's red pilling? I think that may have been the moment when he realized that this California catastrophe is not accidental. I think that may have been the moment when he realized this is not about incompetence or something that can be turned around or just bad governance. I think that's when he realized, no, this is just plain stupid people. Stupid people making rules because they can, and the rules make no sense. And so, see, this is the thing, and it's a sad thing to say, but at the same time, it's also a hopeful thing to say, and in a weird sort of way, it's kind of an American thing to say. So we've been facing censorship, tyranny, bad governance, intrusions of privacy, loss of freedoms, weaponization of the government, all of this stuff, right? All of this stuff. And we are essentially powerless to do anything about it, because I'm not saying we're powerless to do anything about it. What I'm saying is, in order to do something about it, well, we're going to do something about it in November. But stay with me here. There's nothing I can do about YouTube censoring these videos. Let me put it that way. There's nothing I can do about it, right? But there's something he can do about it. And so I remember saying on a firewall, I think it was, Elon Musk could afford to buy free speech. What does free speech cost? Well, in this case, it costs about $40 billion. So, okay, well, I've got $40 billion I can spend on this. Now, buying Twitter at let's just say it's 40 billion, whatever the number was. I think it was higher. But if you buy Twitter at 40 billion, I thought, why is he spending that money on Twitter? And then I realized, it's not like he's burning the money. he can get that money out. He can always sell it again, and if he loses money on it, he's down a couple billion. No big deal. Kind of like me, a little billion here, billion there. I don't even count that. Don't even report it to me. I don't know. It's like I don't have the time to bend over and pick up the $1 billion. It's a waste of my time. But I think this really bothered him. And I think he realized the danger of it. I think he saw everybody being intimidated by it. I know he was intimidated by it. And when he started to actually act politically, when he got the hate that he got from the left, he began to realize that what we were saying is true, that these people, they're not good people, they're not nice people, they're not caring people, they're controlling people, and they're stupid, and they're nasty. Now the second half of this, which we talked about twice now on Virtue Signal with Zoe, is now that he said he's going to vote Republican, he's getting a lot more hate. That's half of the equation. He's getting the stick, right? Now we got to just be the carrot. We don't want to pander to him or anything. We just say, Elon, all these things you heard about us. You said you voted for Democrats your whole life because they were the party of compassion and kindness. They're the party that has kept black people enslaved from the beginning of the Republic. Forget about the fact that the Confederacy was just the Democratic Party leaving America, and forget about the fact that the Klan was Democratic. Forget about the fact that the only blacks that were elected to Congress in the 1800s were Republicans, and then 100 years went by. Forget all that stuff. Today, everywhere you look where Democrats are governing, people are getting killed in large numbers. Businesses are being destroyed, all that stuff. They're not compassionate. They tell you they are, but look at the data. And the reason Musk is coming around is because Musk is the kind of guy who looks at data. That's what he does. Zuckerberg, I'm sure, has a very accurate tally of how many people are using Facebook and so on. But Musk is an engineer. And you can tell Musk looks at the data because in April of 2020, he said we're going to fight. They closed down everything. He says we're restarting the Tesla assembly. Compton, was it? It wasn't Compton. I don't remember what it was. We're restarting it, and they said no, we're locked down. He said, look, here's your projections. He tweeted it. I've still got the graph. Here's your projections on April 1st. Here's your projections on the 5th. Here's your projections on the 15th. Here's the numbers you say that we're going to get. And down here, this little black line is the total number of actual hospitalized patients. This is data. This is projections. And even if you give you the benefit of the doubt and saying you made these projections with no political hay to make, then you just made crummy projections. So he just did. So anyway, the question is, did he ever mean to go through with it? Will he continue to go through with it? I started this by saying you don't get to be the richest man in the world and have $216 billion without being a businessman. And what Musk has done is, first of all, I don't know if he planned it quite this way, but certainly when the opportunity arose, he had the genius to snatch it and jump on it. So he makes an offer for Twitter. Everybody goes haywire. He puts a top offer on the table, way above anybody that ever offered it before, because he wants to force them to sell it. It's kind of an ego thing. So we go through that whole thing, right? And just when it looks like it's done and everybody's packing up and leaving Twitter and Musk is ready to buy it and turn it into a free speech platform, just then he says, no, wait a minute. He didn't say, wait a minute, I've changed my mind. He said, wait a minute. I'm paying $40 billion, $45 billion, and the value of what you're selling me for this outrageous sum is the total number of users. I'm buying a network, and the value of the network consists of the number of people on the network. When I pay for, Musk didn't say this out loud, but surely this is how he thinks, because this is how business works. At least it's what I read about in books. If somebody says to me, you want to advertise on during the Super Bowl? Well, it's going to cost you $1 million for a 30-second ad. $1 million. Yep. Well, this is where the eyes are. There's 30 million people watching, or 50 million, or whatever. That's why it costs what it costs, because there's 50 million people that you reach with this dollar. It doesn't have to be the Super Bowl. All advertising rates work this way. You pay a rate in advertising, and the person you're paying to has to represent to you how many people will be seen. That's part of the transaction. So Musk isn't an idiot, and he's certainly not computer illiterate. So somewhere along the line, he takes a look at what you're selling me. I haven't got the faintest number at all. I'm probably off by orders of magnitude. But basically, he's saying you're selling me 100 million sets of eyeballs, right? Yep. Well, okay. And you're saying that 100 million eyeballs is worth $40 billion. That's what we're saying. That's the deal we're negotiating. Well, I've looked around and I've discovered that you don't have 100 million eyeballs. You've got 60 million eyeballs. So, in that case, this isn't worth $40 billion. It's worth 30. Right? It's a simple piece of mathematics that anybody except for me could do, and I could do it if I had a calculator, but I'm getting, they promised me there'd be no math. So, here's the offering price for Twitter. Yes. Twitter says this is what we've got. And Twitter apparently admitted that maybe 5% of their total number of accounts are, bots or spam or whatever. Okay. So they probably put that on the table. But when Musk then says, no, it's at least 20% and it may be as high as 30 or 40%. And if that's the case, then I'm paying for something that I'm not getting. And furthermore, if you knew that in advance, you've committed fraud. So now he doesn't even have to buy Twitter. Now he can just basically put the people who he's trying to replace these censoring idiots, right? He's trying to replace all these left-wingers who think it's their God-given right to, and duty to tell people what they can listen to. And the only way to get them out of this thing was to buy it. But now he's got a case where he can say, I don't need to buy it anymore. I'm simply going to sue them for fraud. And it's no question about it. This is the offer. This is what they said I was buying. I can prove that they were inflating their numbers by, significantly inflating their numbers in order to get more money. That's fraud. So maybe the whole thing was this, but at the very least, when I say he's a businessman, what he has done is he has certainly challenged the value of what he was paying, and he did it in such a way and at such a time that it was brilliant. It was like all of this emotional trauma. Is he going to do it? 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 Yes, I'm going to do it. Oh, I'm leaving. I'm quitting. Oh my God, the world's over. Free speech. The world. I don't know. Dust starts. Whoa. Wait a minute. I haven't signed yet. No, I haven't signed yet. I just said I'm going to do it. But I was going to do it based on the assumptions that you led me to believe, and those assumptions don't seem to be true. So I'm reconsidering, and what Musk did was, after he agreed, this is what I think is hard to believe is accidental, but as I said a moment ago, if it was accidental, he certainly had the genius to seize the opportunity. So either he made the offer for Twitter, intent to buy it, and then discovered to his surprise that it wasn't worth what they said it was. He was just doing due diligence, right? This is why he's a billionaire. He didn't. Somebody said, it's 40 billion. Write him a check. No. But he did his due diligence after. Sorry, he did his due diligence, probably did it before he announced he was going to buy it. I think he was setting them up. He said, this is what you're asking for? Yeah. How many viewers am I buying? I'm buying this many viewers. Okay, done. Wait a minute now, hold on. I just did some checking of your books here, and it looks like your numbers are inflated by 20-30%. So how do you explain that? See, now there's a lot of wiggling done. Now they're squirming. And now, from a sheer business point of view, I'm just speculating, obviously, but that's kind of what I do. Now it seems like Musk is in a position, if he can prove that there were far more fake accounts than Twitter assured him that they had from their own internals. Only we know. Twitter made a statement. We're the only ones who know how many fake accounts there are. Not anybody on the outside. No one can know except for us on the inside. And we're telling you it's 5%. Well, it's not 5%. It's 20% or higher. Right? So now Musk is in a position where he can basically say, how about this? I was going to pay you $40 billion for this, but now I'm going to offer 20. And if you don't take it, then I'm going to press charges. Or when I say press charges, either that or sue them. This is the advantage of being a billionaire. One of many. But at the very, very, very least, he's embarrassed them and he's exposed them. Even if he doesn't buy it, even if he just walks away from the deal, he's ruined them. He's made them. He's made the subsurface. So and there's $1 billion walkaway fee or something like that. Something like that. So this is how real businessmen function. I don't know why I don't function like that. I don't know. I think probably the problem, in order to, this kind of thing is a feedback loop, like so many other things are feedback loops. You make your best deals when you don't need to buy, right? When you are in a position where you really need something, then they've got you over a barrel and they know it. So you actually kind of have to be, I'm just using the word because the first one comes to mind, you kind of have to be rich enough to be able to completely ignore what it is you're trying to get. If you don't get it, and then you've got absolute, like, actual power. And that's what he's doing. And he's not just exposing Twitter either. Les Warren says he's got to stop freeloading. It's the thing about Musk. Musk is like DeSantis. When people, he doesn't start picking fights, but when somebody accuses him of something, he fights back. Elizabeth Warren is saying this freeloader is already taken enough from society, and he says, I just wrote a personal check for $9 billion of income tax for this year. That's the largest check that has ever been written in the history of this country by a pretty wide margin. So, first of all, F you. Secondly, what have you contributed to the economy? That kind of thing. Yeah. Taps 556 got it right. The power to walk away is the power, and good businessmen don't go into a deal unless they're not only capable of walking away, but completely loaded and ready to walk away. And in order to get into that place, you got to be somebody who knows where his towel is, Okay, so I think that's it for Facebook. So let's do some couple of BillWhittle.coms to make a dent anyway, and then I'm going to I've got some things I have to finish up here at the studio, and then I'm going to go back to the pixel mines because I'm getting close to being done. By God, I'm getting close to being done. So we're heading over to BillWhittle.com, and hey, look at all these amazing stories and incredible thumbnails that this place has. I'm going to have to become a member. Member forum. I sense the presence of Henry Lumley. I feel his presence here. Stratosphere Lounge questions and more. And more. 52722 Stratosphere Lounge questions. Somebody's updated that because it was going to be. Okay, it's GK Masterson, eminent forumite. Hey Bill, hey GK. Have you had a chance to watch my streams? I'm trying to do some clips, but Adobe Media Encoder is always playing its hang at 100% game. Links below in case you haven't. I have not. I haven't had a chance to do anything or see anything. I haven't gone to a movie with my wife in months. I have not done anything but toil away in the pixel minds, but this is a distraction that has an end, and the only reason I'm doing that is because in order to finish something, this is a monumental amount of work. I mean, I, as always, underestimated it, but I mean, this is a, when you see the final product is, and to see one guy did all of this, did the music mixing, sound effects, did the you know, the all of it. It's monumental. So I haven't done that. I haven't looked at Discord. I haven't looked at Bike Pool. I haven't done anything. I'm just trying to get this out the door. But I will when we're done. But there's more. And there's some links, and maybe I can take a look at them real quickly before I go home. In fact, I'll click the links. That'll bring up a separate tab, I imagine. I hope. Yes. And then I'll blink and I'll click the other one. And yet another tab. Nope, same. All right. Well, anyway, there we go. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. Okay. But here's a question. Number 2, monkeypox. Is this a silly thing that it's okay, I assume, with someone making up a ridiculous disease to be the next big scary? Or should those of us born after they stop giving smallpox inoculations be prepared for the next round of, oh my God, WTF BBQ, we are all going to die? Should we be worried at all? Here's what's deeply alarming to me. The first time I heard that there was such a thing as monkeypox was when I had heard that a number of people at WHO and CDC were gaming out another pandemic outbreak, and they gamed it out using fictional countries, and the disease that they were gaming was monkeypox. And I thought, oh, they've invented the names of the countries, and now they've just invented a disease so that we don't have to so that we don't have to be stuck with, well, tetanus or typhoid doesn't work that way. Here's a fictional disease in fictional countries. The fictional countries part's absolutely true. Here's what the world will look like at 20 days after the outbreak, 50 days after the outbreak, 100 days, and 2 years, and all the rest of it. That's the first time I ever heard the word monkeypox. 2 days after I'd heard about the simulation on the part of our health officials and government officials and bettors here in America and around the world, 2 days after that, I hear there are 4 cases of monkeypox in Great Britain. And I thought, well, now, isn't that a remarkable coincidence, considering that the thing was gamed in 2021, I want to say? Pretty astute of them to land the next pathogen like that, monkeypox. Okay. So to answer your question, the short form is, well, there is no short form. I took a look at when I realized that this was real and that there were outbreaks in 6 states now. My first thought, as I'm sure with all of you, was, here we go again. Just at the instant that their control is gone enough for people to relax, here we go again. So I took a look at Wikipedia and I tried to figure out what is this thing. All right. The monkeypox is apparently, imagine the shock, similar to smallpox and similar to chickenpox. It doesn't appear, nowhere in there did I see anything about it being lethal in any way, or at least not to, it's considerably less lethal than COVID, and apparently causes headaches and tiredness, and then you break out in pox, a pox upon you. Well, you get the pox, and you get these little outbreaks, and they itch, and they're filled with pus, and then they basically just go away, unless you pick at them. And as a person who's had chickenpox, I will tell you, it is impossible to not pick at them. It's impossible. But eventually they go away and leaves a series of, I can't remember if it's light spots or dark spots, but those go away too. So essentially it is a non-fatal disease, but it did occur to me, because this part of my brain is activated now, And I kind of was much happier when it wasn't. But it did occur to me that this one's interesting because while it doesn't appear to cause fatalities, what it does cause is disfigurement, temporary disfigurement. Right? That's convenient if you think about it, right? Because what monkeypox is, it is a type of disease, and if you think about it, there's not a whole lot of them. It's a type of disease where the person who is infected is clearly infected because they got these freaking bumps all over their faces, right? So I don't know exactly what's going on here, but I find the coincidence to be rather remarkable. And if this thing is a big outbreak and they're tracking it and doing all the rest of this stuff, okay, yeah, it's not going to kill you or anything, but it's sure going to make you look awful. And Eric Blake, the new leprosy, hadn't thought of it that way before, but yes, it's like temporary leprosy. And so now, again, now I'm speculating on things that I never would have speculated on before COVID. Just thought the whole thing was ridiculous. But now the question becomes, okay, what kind of people would be willing to take a shot for something that's not fatal? In other words, it's kind of, I have come to believe that the people that are doing all this stuff are people who are at this stage, they are calibrating. That's the only word for what they're doing, is calibrating. I think the COVID thing was a calibration test. How much will people take, and at what point will they stop? What states are going to take it? What states are not? What kind of people are taking it? What are not? And by the way, this is all tracked by big tech. So if you're a person who has a problem with the vaccine, then or the Victrola rather, then okay, we know that you're one of those people. Now, you were willing to either not take the vaccine or had a problem with the Victrola or whatever when there was a, realistically for older people, maybe a 1% fatality rate, 0.5%, something like that. There were people who were ready to take that risk, right? Ready to take the risk and say, you can keep your Victrolas. Okay. But we'd sold that as, the plague, all the disease porn. So we found out something about the population, not only of the country, but the world. Now, what, if they would do this, in other words, if people would line up like this and just willingly say, yeah, shoot in there whatever you want to. I'm not going to ask any questions, whatever you want, just give it, just whatever. If it turned out that people would do that because there was a 1% or 0.5% chance of dying, and we still got most people to inject this enthusiastically, not only inject it, but to go after the people who said, we kind of like to know what's going on first, Well, science denier. You could make the case that now the question is, okay, so if there were people who would take it because they didn't want to take the 5%, 0.5% chance of dying, what about, would people do it because they didn't want to be ugly for 3 weeks? And again, it's hard to escape the feeling that we are looking at another giant push for a different kind of vaccine okay. Somebody said in the comments I saw, somebody said I didn't have chickenpox. Just as a quick show of hands, which usually takes about, 7-8 seconds something for the feedback to start. Of the people who are watching live now, 49 people. You don't have to do this or not, it's up to you. But just answer yes or no. Have you had chickenpox in your life? Yes or no? I'm curious. Because I didn't think chickenpox had been eradicated, but maybe it had been. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So, okay, so it's pretty much universal. Yeah, okay, great. That's actually reassuring. I don't know, honestly, and if Lord Bias is here, he's lurking, which is appropriate. Yeah, everybody's saying yes. Everybody is saying yes, they've had chickenpox. I don't know if that protects you against monkeypox. I suspect probably does, but I don't know. Yeah, every single person has 20 yeses. So when I heard that so now there's, look at the bottom line, right? Bottom line is now there's a new thing to be afraid of. What? Monkeypox. Okay. I live in the part of the country that is the most willing, eager to show everybody what great people they are by being the first in line to inject whatever the next thing is. So it's going to be a relief for those people. I want to know how many people out there, and it's a significant percentage of the population. I want to know how many people out there are somehow relieved that there's something on the horizon, you know? As far as I personally am concerned, the second I looked it up, I said, if this thing is like typhus or yellow fever or something, and it's got a higher fatality rate than COVID, that's going to be, then I know what's coming. But when I saw that there was essentially no long-term effects, then I just said, well, I don't know what anybody else is going to do, but I know what I'm going to do. If it turns out that the chicken pox I had as a kid doesn't protect me, then I'll get the monkeypox. Big deal, you know? Now they say that on some cases you can get these little sores on the inside of your mouth. Somebody said you can get them on your eye or something. That doesn't sound like fun. They don't hurt so much as they itch, and I have had when I've been super stressed. 2015, just before I met Natasha, I was just crazy stressed, and I broke out in shingles, and those things hurt. It wasn't bad for me. Some people just say it's unbelievable. GK says you've had smallpox inoculation. I have, and that protects you. And I had that inoculation, what, 50 years ago, maybe 55. But you know, shingles is somebody told me that shingles is essentially is chickenpox, and it was explained to me that basically when you get chickenpox, you get it multiplies in your system like any other disease. Your immune system steps up, knocks it down, kills it basically, and you never get it again, but it doesn't go away. I've heard that it still remains inside your body. Sometimes I think I've heard inside the cells, and that when your immune system gets very, very stressed and becomes weak enough, then that latent chickenpox can erupt, and that's what shingles are. That's what I've heard. But in any event, I'll tell you, I remember having chickenpox. I think that's the only disease I can actually remember getting. I remember I didn't get the mumps because adults were afraid of the mumps, but I didn't get the mumps. I got when I say a bunch of vaccines, I got the smallpox vaccine, and then some other time I got the polio vaccine, and I got a couple of other vaccines, but I didn't get 75 of them at one time in one injection. But the only childhood sickness, the only childhood disease that I can ever recall getting, in fact, the only disease I ever got before COVID came along, was chickenpox. And I remember that it didn't hurt so much as it itched, and that, you know, you're just scratching, and needless to say, you scratch and you rupture these little things, and now they've got to heal, and if you do enough of it, they scar over. Smallpox did so much damage to the skin that when it was finished with you, you had, well, you've seen Joseph Stalin by way of example had horrific smallpox pits all over his face. They were always airbrushed out, but if you see a couple pictures of him, there's a couple out there. His face was just ruined. Everybody commented on it. Everybody talked about it. They made fun of him about it. Well, they did for a while anyway. Let me just see if I can find a picture of that. Because, and smallpox was, oh yeah, wow. Smallpox was pretty deadly. These are all kind of revolting. Let's go with, yes. So here's a picture of Uncle Joe taken on one of his not better days. and he had smallpox as a child, and those aren't just spots; those are pits. So yeah, the reason you would hear the expression "pretty maids all in a row," well, they were milkmaids. The pretty maids were milkmaids, and the reason that milkmaids were pretty was because milkmaids didn't get these pockmarks and have their faces ravaged by smallpox. The milkmaids didn't get smallpox because they got cowpox, and cowpox protected against smallpox, and that's where the first vaccination came from with Edward Jenner. Was it Jenner? I think it was Jenner, who basically just had this theory. So he basically found a milkmaid with cowpox and took a knife and lanced one of these things and got some brand new fresh pus on it, and then just stuck it into somebody else's arm. That person got cowpox, and then they didn't get smallpox, and voila, you now have inoculations and immunity, which has. And for those people who say, anti-vaxxer, vaccines have saved more lives in this world than anything else combined. The vaccines have saved billions and billions and billions of lives. Vaccines are absolutely tremendous. They're absolutely wonderful. They're one of the absolute miracles of modern medicine. And my problem with the current Victrola is there's an awful lot about that particular Victrola that's not built like any other Victrola that's ever been built before, and that's something that's coming. Edward Smith says smallpox is still pretty deadly. I find that interesting because my understanding is that smallpox does not exist in the world anymore except in laboratories. This was one of the major killers of human beings. It was right up there, and it's been eradicated. It's been defeated by science. Real medicine killed it. And I was very happy to hear that. Smallpox is now extinct. Hey, that's fantastic. They've kept a few samples in some lab someplace. That's not so fantastic. Why does that bother me? Oh, no, it's perfectly safe. I've come to doubt perfectly safe. Even the things that are the safest things in the world, which is riding in an airplane, that's as safe as you ever going to get. If you are in a jet airplane in the air, you are safer than virtually at any other time in your life. You may even be safer than you are in your home. Not 100% sure about that, but certainly that is the safest way to move from one place to another by a large margin. Your chance of getting killed on the way to the airport is hundreds of times higher than getting hit while you're on the plane. But there was a point to all this which has flown my mind because Marusha in the comment section said that allegedly the monkeypox strain came from the same lab as COVID. So this would be the unspecified pox of unknown origin. Look, Edward Smith says bubonic plague is rare. Yes, bubonic plague is rare, but bubonic plague exists. Bubonic plague was found downtown Los Angeles a couple years ago. But smallpox was gone. And when something's gone and there's a little bit of it in a lab, then smallpox vaccine, for example, is a tremendous vaccine. I was vaccinated against smallpox when I was 5 or something, right? And all the rest of them, they've worked wonders. Polio, bye. He died recently. My theater professor, the only guy in the theater department who really knew what he was doing, had a terrible limp and a terrible stoop. He was disfigured for life because he had polio as a kid. And I didn't. Thank you, Dr. Salk. So, the problem or an opportunity, I guess, depending on your viewpoint, if you have an entire population that's had the smallpox vaccine, smallpox is eradicated from the face of the earth. Deadly disease gone. Hooray. We've kept a little bit in a lab. If you wait for the last of the people who got a smallpox vaccination to die off, now you've got a bioweapon and you know exactly how it's going to perform, right? And not only that, you not only have a bioweapon, but you've got a bioweapon with a known, proven 100-year-old vaccine that could be made available for a particular cost or price. You wouldn't have to do the whole kind of thing. You don't have to get into RNA, nothing. We have a very serious disease that killed a lot of people. We had a tremendous vaccine that wiped it out from the face of the earth. It doesn't live anywhere outside of a lab now. The entire world got vaccinated against smallpox. Great. When those people die off out of old age, hopefully, now you've got people who have no immunity to this. They never got the vaccination for it because the disease doesn't exist anymore except inside a test tube, and maybe that test tube might be in some back room in, oh, I don't know, some regional Chinese capital, let's say. And then if it gets out, not only do you have the pathogen out there again and the deaths and the panic, you also have, and this is the part that just struck me, you also have in your back pocket the vaccine that is 100% effective because it was made 100 years ago. It was so effective it wiped out smallpox all over the earth. Now all you have to do is get it. And if you want to add something to that smallpox vaccine, okay, well, what you going to do? You're going to say no? See, I say things like this and I start thinking to myself, Bill, you're going off the deep end, man. You really are. You're losing it. And then I stop myself and I say, 4 days ago, I saw a Pfizer executive at the World Economic Forum bragging about how they are now able to determine whether or not you took the shot because there is a biological marker that is released. And so he said, imagine how good that'll be for doctors to know that people are taking their medicine. You know, every time I stop myself from going any further, I say, well, hold on, man. You know, if your whole life is about looking at evidence, trying to figure out what's real, that's evidence. There's the guy who's not some nutcase on a street corner. You know, you get a straight story from the nutcase on the street corner. This guy is one of the chief executives at Pfizer who's saying, yes, we now have biomarkers. And then we put them in, and we can tell whether you got the shot or not. Okay. Helio says, just wait till the Children's Health Defense lawsuit against the FDA goes to trial. I'll tell you what, there's an advantage to winning elections, and we're going to win a big one in November. Don't get cocky, kid. Find a way to screw this up, I have no doubt. But I think people are so upset and disgusted, and so many people are upset and disgusted, and all the tea leaves are saying this is a historic election coming. And if that election goes the way I think it's going to go, we then have to move very fast, right? And if things go the way they continue to go, and we find ourselves with all three, as we did in 2016, and in 2016, we all sat around and went, hooray, no Hillary, hooray, no Democrats. 2 years, presidency, Senate, House of Representatives, clear road. We did nothing, right? Nothing. If we do that again, then we deserve everything that's coming to us. We did nothing with that. But this time, we need to do a bunch. We need to do it in 2 years. We got to get Hillary Clinton in jail where she belongs. We got to get Dr. Faucius in jail where he belongs. We got to find out what actually happened during those 2 years and who got hurt by it and who was responsible for it. And we need to hold some people accountable. And if it turns out that some foreign nation, let's say, that begins with C, Cameroon. If it turns out that the virus emerged from a laboratory in Cameroon, and that even if it wasn't intentional, but they knew it was out in Cameroon, and they continued to allow people outside of Cameroon, but didn't let anybody move around inside of Cameroon, then that is culpable. That's criminal intent. And if somebody from Cameroon did that to me, and I owed that guy some money, I'd say, not anymore. I don't. No, you tried to kill me. I don't know. I don't know. I don't owe money to people who have tried to kill me. That kind of, queers the deal a little bit, if you don't mind me saying so. So Political Animal says the rhinos are going to block everything and just piss away every opportunity to fix anything. I think that's possible, may even be likely. And I'm probably not cynical enough yet. I have a feeling that this, that things have changed, fundamentally changed on the ground in a way they hadn't changed in 2016. Oh, the big house. I don't remember seeing the name before, but he comes out with out of the gate with a great comment. Monkeypox equals the new Coke. I'll wait till COVID classic. Have a poke and a smile. You win the internet for today, sir or madam, as the case may be. All right, so let's see. We'll do a couple more questions, then I have to get on my way and get back to those bubbling, boiling pixels. I don't want those pixels to catch fire. I don't want them to get burned. Jamuld. Okay, Jamuld. Hey, Bill, I have an idea for your Unreal Engine membership drive videos. Couldn't have come at a better time. Thank you. A parody of the opening scene from John Carpenter's Escape from New York. Instead of saying the crime rate is up 400% in America, it says up 400% in New York. The scene would go on to point out the Democratic actions, policies, and rhetorics that caused this. In between the 400% crime rate dialogue and VR imagery of New York, you would have the Unreal Engine rendered ruins of New York with burning buildings and gangs and BLM Antifa roaming the streets. If you decide to take it further than the intro, you could have you and Zoe donning Snake Plissken-like attire, walking through the burned out streets and wreckage and looking for the Duke. The Duke is a number one at wrecking New York. You could even have a sequel parody at some point based on Escape from LA, pointing out the Democratic caused problems in California. Yes. I'm not saying that's going to the top of the stack, but your instincts are in exactly the right place, Jim. See, this is the tool that I'm trying to forge here, right? Because with enough money, and it's not a whole lot of money, I can write that script in 2 days, and then I can have animators working on it, and I don't have to spend 6 months getting this thing out. I get it out in 4 weeks. That's why we need these resources, because then we can do things exactly like that. Then we can make the Common Sense Resistance. The Common Sense Resistance movies were always about a group of people who, essentially, not to put too fine a point on it, but basically they were people who dug the chip out of their arms. They were people who decided they weren't going to take the jab. And that story depended on a dystopian future where cities have collapsed and everything's gone. And Unreal Engine, especially Unreal Engine 5, doesn't break a sweat on this. Unreal Engine 5 will render that 60 times a second. I've been in 3D in 3D graphics since there were 3D graphics. I'm not going to get into it again, but I was there for the Apple. I was there for my first version of 3D Studio was version 2. It was 1990. Right? So I've been there from the beginning, and I know an awful lot about the theory behind 3D animation and the tools behind 3D animations, but I will tell you something. Unreal Engine 5 to me is voodoo magic. I not only do I not understand how it works, I don't understand how it's possible to understand how it does what it does. Whatever they're doing in Unreal 5 is so different than everything that's come before that I don't know how they do it. And what I mean by that is it's not like look, I bought this thing because I saw an app that I liked. I first bought the iPhone. I saw 2 apps back to back. I was coming out of a screening back in the early days of the organization that didn't exist, and we were at Fox Studios lot. It was a Sunday night, and a bunch of us wanted to go out and get some dinner, and I thought, I don't know when anything's going to be open. Somebody said, let me look, and he touches this button on the phone, and all of a sudden all these restaurants come up nearby, and you can just look at all their hours and stuff. This is not news now, but it was news in 2009, 10, whatever it was. I went, that's amazing. Yeah, and then all I have to do is touch it, and it'll give me driving directions on how to get there. Come on. No, really, man, really. Wow. But the one that made me buy the iPhone was Shazam. I was sitting in a restaurant. Somebody said, have you heard this Shazam app? I said, no. He said, check this out. Turn the phone around, hit this button. I'm in a busy restaurant. There's lots of crowd noise. Something's playing on the speakers. For the sake of it, we'll say it's Girl from Ipanema. It was something like that. It wasn't something really clearly vocally recognizable. And there's all this conversation and chatter going on, and then and little things going around, and finally it just stops, and little buzz, wait. And then it comes back and says, Girl from Ipanema, here is the song, push the button to buy the song. And when I saw that, instantly I said, okay, so So the phone's got a microphone. That's why it's a telephone. So the phone microphone listened, took a sound wave recording, used the cell data, went back to the home base of wherever the app lives, took that wavefront, compared it against a database of every song ever recorded, found the match, confirmed it, and then sent back the link to how to buy the song. Yeah, okay, that's how it works. No problem. And I was able to do that. I saw the first time I saw an app, this was a while ago too. I saw an app that just basically said, yeah, you see that airplane over there? Yeah, you hold the app up and it's like, boop, this is TWA, well, it's not TWA anything now, but it's it's a Delta 2922 from Seattle to Atlanta. It's at 31,000 feet and it's moving at 500 knots. And here's where it is directly over the earth. And here's what it looks like out the window. And I saw that. I said, this is magic. And I said, okay, hang on. Let me think about this for a second. The phone knows where it is, and the phone knows the angle. The phone knows which direction it's heading. It's got a magnetometer in it. It's got GPS, so it knows where it is on the earth. And the phone also knows the azimuth and the elevation of where it's being pointed. Okay. And since it can access a database that has all of the radar tracks in the country in real time, and since it knows where I am, and since it knows where the airplane is, and since it knows the angle, then it can do the calculations and say that's what that is. And again, I could never have conceived of it before that, but the second I saw it in action, I was immediately, and I mean right then on the spot in real time, immediately able to figure out how it worked. The bane of the existence of 3D is complexity. The machines at home working now as we speak, and I have to go back and tend it. But Unreal Engine is software that is so advanced that it's rendering in real time 60 frames a second. I've got it down to about 1 frame every 3 seconds, and that's how hard it's working. That's how complex the scene is. But it does that because the breakthrough in game engines was, before, if you wanted to make something look complex, you had to put little points there in the geometry, and then the thing would draw the geometry out in lights. The whole breakthrough was this idea of low poly objects. Instead of building a building, right, with 700,000 individual vertex points to create the shadows and the lights and the little details and the structures, instead of doing that, essentially, instead of doing 700,000 vertices, you put in a cube. 8 vertices, right? The geometry instantaneous. And the way you get the effect you want is with the textures. You have a mathematical set of textures, and that tells the light what to do. And so you don't have to load up the memory with all of these locations of these data spots in space. You just got 8 vertices where before you had 700,000. Okay, fantastic. That's how it works. But as you add more and more and more cubes and things, and obviously they're more complex than cubes, but they're still low poly. It's 8,000 vertices or 12 or something. It's low compared to my Aurora model was 1.5 million. And it would take, in 2007, to render 1 frame of Aurora would take 35 minutes, maybe, for 1 frame, 30 frames a second. You turn it on when you leave the house, and you'll get your answer at the end of the week. So in order for this breakthrough to work, the Unreal Engine and all the other engines to work, the geometry had to be pretty simple. And the textures did most of the work. The graphics card did the textures. But as you add more and more stuff into the scene to make it more and more realistic, you still keep adding vertices, and that's slowing things down. So they did level of detail, which meant that, hey, if something's close to me, we'll load the high definition version with all the vertices because we're real close to it. But if there are people walking across the street, 2 miles down the road, why bring in a 12,000 vertex thing of these people? You won't see it. It's below the resolution of the pixel. So you'd have, for any given object, if you had a fighter jet, let's say, you'd have a level 0 fighter jet that was the close-up, the hero rendering, and it had 30,000 vertices, and then you'd have an LOD, level of detail 1, that had 12,000, level of detail 2 had 4,000, level of detail 3 had 800, so that finally, if the thing's off in the far off distance, it's got 60 vertices. It's all you need. And as it gets closer and closer and closer, the computer says, okay, it's close enough now. Now we're going to up-res the LOD, and now we're going to do it. And usually it's done smoothly, but much more often than not, especially if you're traveling fast like in a flight sim, you constantly see the distant objects are just updating. That's the level of details are being updated. All right, so normal maps, as Marusha pointed out, displacement maps, flow maps, bump maps, occlusion maps, all of this stuff. We have metallic channels, we have channels for roughness, we have channels for ambient occlusion, we have all these channels for the textures. Grand. But you're still limited by how many vertices you can put into this thing, because the more objects you put in, even if they're simple objects, the more of them you put into your scene, the slower you're going to run, and you want to do 60 frames a second, because gamers say that 30 frames a second is like sandpaper on the eyes. 30 frames a second to me is a bloody miracle. But yeah, below that, it gets tough to play. All right, so what Unreal Engine 5 does is there are no LODs. There are no levels of detail. You don't have a vertex count. Your scenes don't slow down as you put more and more stuff into it. Somebody will, I'll pay somebody to explain it to me someday, but basically, the demo for Unreal 5, which came out I think 2 years ago now, showed an incredibly complex statue, and then essentially pulled back and showed like 50 of them in the room. And the voiceover guy says there are 2 billion vertices in this shot that's rendering at 60 frames a second. And I still haven't got any idea how they do that. I just don't know. I don't know. But gaming is a much bigger market than movies, and so there's billions and billions of dollars of research there. And unlike certain crowdfunded games I could mention if I was in a bitchy mood, these guys produce results. There you go. GK Masterson says it works on the FM principle. It works because it's effing magic. It is. It's effing magic. And that system is called Nanite. And Nanite means you can have essentially unlimited frames, unlimited vertices, and still get your frame count. And then Lumen is their lighting thing, which is damn near as magical. Bob Knife wants to know, how did we get to Unreal again? I don't know. How did we get to Unreal again? No, it was something to do with a question that went off the rails as usual. We were talking to Elon Musk, and yeah, I guess somehow or another we got there. No, that's wrong. That's Facebook. Hang on. Yes, we were talking about we had a question, and a legitimate question from Jamud talking about some things we could do with the ability to have this little puppet show going. And yes, we can absolutely do that. And yes, 100%. Let me see what else we got. It's one other thing I wanted to say on the way out. This isn't a question. Sorry, this is from James Lynch. So much as I hope Bill will get a chance to read this and see sort of a turning of the wheel. I think I'm the guy who told him his spiritual journey was not over. I wrote this to explain. Are you serious? Well, I've got something fun to read. James, I have it. I just skimmed it. I don't know if you're watching now, but man, I owe you a great deal of thanks, and I feel like an apology. For those of you not up on it, it's I've talked about it a few times on the Virtue Signal. I've talked about it a few times on just about everything. This question in the comment section says that James Lynch, who's a new Fortumite, might have been the guy who said that my spiritual journey is not over. For those of you not up on the story, I can make this one pretty brief. Back when I started writing Eject, I was, 100% materialist. I said agnostic, but basically, it's like just a materialist. It's not even atheism. It's like, you don't need any of this, right? You don't need any of it. You got the hydrogen, helium, methane, ammonia. You got your spark, got your amino acids. Ipso facto, here we are. And something I'd wrote had said something about that, and somebody I told the story many, many, many times. Somebody wrote in a comment on one of these essays that, okay, I understand that's your viewpoint, but I suspect your spiritual journey is not over yet. And I remember how angry it made me. It just made me angry because it hit me in my pride, which is a good place to get hit. How dare you? You're gonna tell me, I the big brain, astronomy background, blah, blah, blah. And that was the end of it. Except it wasn't. That comment was one of 5 comments made in my 5 years doing eject, eject, eject. One of 4 or 5 comments that just didn't leave me, and it didn't leave me because it was bothering me. And on some level, it was like the larva they put in Chekhov's ear. It just starts boring in there in Wrath of Khan, and just starts going deeper and deeper. And it just finally got to the point where I was like, I don't know how much of that subsequent journey was a result of that, but I can tell you that comment fractured something, and for that I am exceedingly grateful. Exceedingly grateful. The Big House says, March the institution messed up the gamer generation of young men like me, and in retaliation we got you the Trump revolution. That's why I'm watching Bill. He gets it. Thank you, The Big House. A couple of comments on YouTube I've seen people say I'm a millennial, or I'm this or that, or I'm a gamer or something, and Bill's the only political commentator who gets it, who understands it. I believe that's true. It's everything I can do to not just play computer games round clock, just. And DCS, I mean, I don't even want to get started on DCS because I would never leave DCS. I used to have a real decent kind of a home flight sim situation set up when I was playing a lot of Star Citizen. That stuff's in the garage now. Well, the chairs and the stuff are, because I didn't get anything done. But one day this will be finished. I saw, I don't remember where it was, but I saw available for purchase a 100% perfectly accurate real life, I want to say it was F-18 interior. And when I say perfectly realistic, I mean mechanical switches in exactly the right place and everything. And it looked like an F-18 on the side. It had a canopy that comes down and all of this stuff. And I wrote to these guys and I said, how much does this thing cost? And I want to say they said it was $15,000, but they might have said 50. I'm not sure. And I said, thank you. I hope and expect that I will be sending you a check soon. I said, you're welcome. So that's that. Let me see. There was one other thing I was just going to mention. Oh, here's Henry Lumley. I'm going to take this one. I don't want to let anybody out. Bart Hennon says, the elephant in the room, why is no one talking about the explosive national debt? On my last firewall, Bart, I started with the national debt, and on all of the rest of them in this series on technocracy, they're all going to start with the national debt. And I'm not going to say why. I'm just going to say we recorded the last one a month ago, and since then, here's how much more money we owe. I'm going to bring every single one of these episodes going to take 30 seconds to look at the state of the national debt, because in my opinion, the Great Reset refers to the absolute elimination of debt, which many people think, wow, that's wonderful. But what it means is that the people who've been playing around with the money have bought things in the real world, and now they're zeroing the clock now that they own so much more. That's what I think is happening. And I'll deal with that in more detail next time because I can't get into that. But here's a picture of Henry Lumley. Hey, Bill, since I sent a picture last week showing off my sweater, I figured I would show off the technology dichotomy I live with. So here's me with my advanced SpaceX hoodie sitting on my Farmall Super A, which was made from 1939 to 1947. It's a tractor, and boy, it's a good-looking tractor. That is a classic. It was running when this picture was taken this week. Hey, Scott Ott, did you ever drive one of these? I don't know, Scott, did you? If you are, you're a lucky boy. I've never seen a tractor look sporty before. Um, and it's in the comment section at members, so I'm tempted to drag it in and put it in, but I don't have permission to do that. But if you give me permission, Henry, I'll do it next time. But honestly, it looks like, and some of you will know what a farmall is. This thing looks like it looks like it's hot. It's like a hot rod tractor. I mean, it's like my little Deuce coupe kind of thing. You know, it's painted red. It looks like it's probably the original paint and the logo and so on. But this is I've never seen a tractor in my life before that looks like it should be candy apple red. But this one does. And thank you for the picture, and thank you again for doing what you do with the forum. We're all extremely grateful for that. Me more than anybody, obviously, Henry. So thanks for that. So one last little thing to mention, because it's not specifically about animation, although it's related to the project. Curious to know. Show it to us. Yeah, I think, I suppose I can, right? Oh, hey, Henry, all right. Well, in that case, then I can. It's fabulous. Here we go. And you look studly riding it too, man. You look like the kind of guy that does things like, feed countries. Here it comes. It's a little, I can crop it down a little bit. But that is a fine-looking tractor and a fine-looking American on a fine-looking tractor, and that, my friends, is a farmall. Look at that! Just look at the design on that. It's just cool. I like the way the radiator sits on the top there, and it looks very greebly, Henry. It's like the kind of things that you would do if you were making like a spaceship model and you wanted it to look really believable. This thing looks like it's been greebled up, and that. Ladies and gentlemen, is Henry Lumley, who, through certainly without being asked and on constant basis of his own time and effort, keeps track of the comment section here in the forum at billwhittle.com, and for which we are all exceedingly grateful. And I'm glad you sent the picture. I was glad I was able to show that and see it. So here's the last thing to talk about real briefly. I just thought it was kind of clever and curious to know what you guys think here. A lot of people say they've driven one. Awesome. If only that farmall was an Oliver. I think we're getting into tractor pissing contests now, and I'm not qualified to comment on that, but I'll have to do some research. So anyway, when we did the last showing of the animation and stuff, everybody, I do the show with Zoe on Thursday mornings, so I saw him yesterday. Everybody was talking about, man, this Zoe is a great actor. Jesus, Zoe is such a fantastic actor. What a great actor Zoe is. Just again, great actor Zoe is an incredible voice. He's got such a great voice. He'd be a great professional voice actor. Such good acting on the part of Zoe. Zoe is a great actor. Zoe is a great actor. What a great actor Zoe is. What a great voice Zoe has. Great performance by Zoe. Zoe is wonderful in this. My God, I can't believe how good Zoe is. And after a while, I began to notice there's maybe a pattern, some kind of pattern here. Something's a little off. And I know you people are kind, and I also know that reading was done in 8 minutes with the car practically idling outdoors. But nevertheless, when you're creating the animation, you got to have slug voiceover, especially in this case because we're wearing the helmets. I need it for timing. How long is the shot needed? And I also have it for head movements, so that even though you can't see my face, if somebody says, this is, you get the head doing that. And Eric Blake says he's a darn good actor. He is a darn good actor. I'm not taking a second thing away from him, not at all. But what, you people, you heard me. But what was dawning on me was I wasn't getting that same kind of love as Zoe was getting. And I'm teasing because obviously Zoe's a very good actor, and I'm not a very good actor. So I thought, well, what am I going to do about this? I could have somebody else do the voice, but it's supposed to be me, and the character looks like me, and I didn't really want to do that. So I did the next best thing. I went to Fiverr, online thing. I found a British guy, and I sent him my lines. And I told him what I wanted to do. I said, I just flat out told him, I said, look, I've got decent voice control and I'm a good speaker. I'm just not a good actor because I don't make very good choices. So what I was hoping you could do is you could read the script for me. And rather than using your voice, I would simply take it as a 650 word line reading. And that's what I did. Now, the guy who did it was great. He had a great voice. He was a little more low key than I wanted. And he's much, much slower than I needed. Much, much slower. But I am going to put it into Premiere and I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. And I'm listening to his choices, to his inflection. And I thought, man, this is all, it's not exactly monotone exactly, but it's certainly not going up and down as much as I did. And then I realized that's the problem, man. You're shrieking like a little girl on this thing, you know? Stop shrieking. Keep the lines. The lines are good. It's well written. But this guy is giving a much more realistic read. And why don't you do that? So we're going to try it. And I'm going to try it in the next 2 days or so. So this time, I'm gonna spend a lot of time warming up the voice. My voice is a lot warmer now than it was when I sat down a couple hours ago. I'm gonna get the voice warmed up, maybe do some singing in the car real loud and stuff. I'm gonna drop about an octave if I really loosen up enough, you know, really get it down here somewhere, and that's a whole different animal. But then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it slightly sped up just because it's too long. And then I'm simply going to copy the little hills and valleys in the order that it is presented to me, and I will be able to do his performance, and I think it will be much, much better. Much better. Eric says a lot of the greatest movie lines in history actually sound very understated. They are. And understatement is not my strong suit. Ian A. Little says, I'm curious what Bill's favorite songs in the car to sing are. That's easy. Hot Rod Lincoln, Come Fly With Me, Michael Bublé version, Shut Down by the Beach Boys, and a few others. Yeah. Anyway, so that's that. Hey, you know what? I'm going to go. I've got a rendering in the oven and fresh baked rendering and so on. Somehow, Hot Rod Lincoln was the first song that popped into my head. Hot Rod Lincoln is a great song, and it's a great song to warm your voice up with because it's fast. And here's the thing about Hot Rod Lincoln. You have to have that song memorized because it's fast. And memorizing Hot Rod Lincoln is a bit of a challenge because unlike any other song I could think of, there's not a line in Hot Rod Lincoln that repeats itself. Not one. There's no chorus. There's no repeats. Nothing. Every single sentence is unique. I'm not going to sing it, but I could talk it out real quickly, just out of memory. Have you heard the story of that hot rod race with Fords and Lincolns were setting the pace? Well, that story is true, I'm here to say, because I was driving that Model A. She's got a Lincoln motor and she's really souped up. That Model A body makes her look like a pup. It's got 8 cylinders and uses them all. It's got overdrive. Just won't stall. With a 4-barrel carb and dual exhaust and 411 gears, you can really get lost with safety tubes, but I ain't scared. Brakes are good. Tires fair. It's 4 sets of lines like that. Drove out of San Pedro late one night. The moon and the stars were shining bright. We were driving up Grapevine Hill, passing cars like they were standing still. And then it does a little musical thing, but not a line repeats. All of a sudden, in a wink of an eye, a Cadillac sedan passed us by. And I said, boys, there's a mark for me. By then, the taillights was all you could see. Well, the fellows ribbed me for being behind, so I thought I'd make that Lincoln unwind. Took my foot off the gas, and man alive, I shoved it on down into overdrive. Wound her up. This one line only accelerates. It just gets more intense. It's the only line that's like this. Well, the first line, previous line is, fellas kidded me for being behind, so I thought I'd make that Lincoln unwind. Took my foot off the gas, and man alive, shoved it on down into overdrive. Here it comes. Wound her up to 110. My speedometer said I'd hit top end. My foot was glued like lead to the floor. That's all there is, and there ain't no more. It's just bammo. Well, the boys all thought, it's my favorite part, boys all thought I'd lost my sense. Them telephone poles looked like a picket fence. They said, slow down, I see spots. Lines on the road just look like dots. Turned a corner, sideswiped a truck, and crossed my fingers just for luck. My fingers was clicking the guardrail post. The guy beside me was white as a ghost. Smoke was coming. This one always gives me a hard time starting it. Smoke was coming from out of the back, and we started to gain on that Cadillac. I knew I could pass her. I thought I could pass. But you know, by then we'd be low on gas. She had flames coming from out of the side. Feel the tension, man. What a... Smoke coming out of the side? Feel the tension, man. What a ride. I said, look out, boys. Got a license to fly. And that caddy pulled over and let us by. Well, all of a sudden, she started a knocking, and down in the dip, she started a rocking. I looked in the mirror. Red light was blinking. The cops was after my hot rod Lincoln. Well, they arrested me and threw me in jail and called my pappy to throw my bail. And he said, son, you're going to drive me to drink it if you don't stop driving that hot rod Lincoln. And God bless you, Commander Cody. Rest in peace. He flew west a couple months ago, something like that. Dun, 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 dun. You can't sing that song without the twang. It just doesn't work without the twang. Well, thank you. That's very kind. I heard the original version of Hot Rod Lincoln. Well, thank you. Thank you. The original version of Hot Rod Lincoln, I didn't like very much. I know that's not a nice thing to say for the guy who wrote it, but in any event, there you go. And just because I'm in the mood, I'm not going to go through this, but another song is very much like Hot Rod Lincoln that I like to sing. Also, is not so much fast, but it's very complex and it's difficult to memorize, and that is Shutdown. What's the... Hang on one second. So the Stingray's light slick starting to spin before 13 was really digging into the... I keep getting it mixed up with Hot Rod Lincoln. I can't get the tune. Anyway, the four-barrel quads and... well, hang on. Pedals to the floor, hear those dual quads sing. No, hear those dual quads drain. Now the 413. Dual quad carburetors. Dual cards drain. Now the 413's lead is starting to... Pedals to the floor, hear those dual carbs drink. Now the 413's lead is starting to shrink. He's hot with frame induction, but it's understood. I got a fuel-injected engine sitting under my hood. That's as American as it gets, man. He's hot with frame induction. He's hot with frame induction, but it's understood. I got a fuel-injected engine sitting under my hood. Back it up. Yeah. Declining numbers at even rate. One of my favorite songs, one of the shortest songs ever. It's just under 2 minutes, I want to say. And I am, needless to say, the Stingray fan. I love Stingrays. Love them. And especially the 65s, the early ones. Ice Blue 65 Stingray is fantastically good-looking car. And so it was kind of disappointing to hear, not only from the comment section, but from everybody else, that they have done this race in real life several times. They've taken a Stingray and a 413, and the 413 blows the Corvette out of the water every single time. It's never even close. It's that hot frame induction, I guess. Maybe the guy in the Stingray just wasn't doing his power shift right. All right, gang, it's great to be here. Thank you very much. Eric Blake has got to say, my first completed screenplay is shut down in a scene, and I'm so proud of how I use it. Sounds good. Sounds good. Fire Waco says Stingray isn't a quarter miler. That's right, it's not. It's Stingray is designed for Pacific Coast Highway. That's what it's designed for. But it's a good looking car, though. I saw something on YouTube. What was it, though? Hang on. I'm on a car thing now. I know it's time to go. So just consider this kind of, the Easter egg at the end of the credit roll here. What was it? Where is it? Not cat, you idiot. Car. Was it a Chrysler? I don't see it. No, it was... What was it? Well, I thought it would pop right up. Apparently, there's a Chrysler with a turbine in it. Oh, here we go. This is not what I was thinking. There's a super slick concept car that was put out that had a jet engine in it, but this one, I'm just gonna play it here. Where's the sound? Hang on, everybody just cool your jets here. Because it's a 2-minute video and they start up this turbine car, which I had not seen before or heard before, and it sounds like it'd be fun. It's just a regular automobile. It has a jet engine in it. That's what I was. Okay, that's why. Here it comes. It's gonna be loud. Hang on a second. I know you can't see it, but he says he runs it up to 4,100 RPM. That's pretty high for a car. Fast forwarding. I think it may be at the end here. Fast forwarding somewhere. Come on. Make it loud. I'm disappointed. Oh, come on. Well, it's more quiet than I thought, frankly. Anyway, here's this wicked looking car from the 60s. And I want a jet powered car. Because I bet they're really fast, and I bet they get, I don't know, 30 gallons to the mile maybe. Something like that. All right, render and go ding. Time to go. So I'm on out of here. I got a couple things I have to do here first before I leave, but then I'm gonna go back home, and it looks fantastic. So cheers, greetings, adios, sayonara, aloha, whatever your bag may be. Thanks again for being here. This show is made possible by the paying members at BillWhittle.com, including Henry Lumley and all the rest of you fine folks who keep this thing going. And it's my intention to raise the number of us in this family by hopefully a significant margin. Hopefully by the next time we see you back on Thursday, because I am that close. 90% of it is done. Okay, thanks for being with us. Thanks for sticking with the Friday schedule shift. Back on Thursday next week, unless something I'm unaware of happens, which occasionally happens. Enjoy my weekend, Bill. Thank you, Big House. I won't. But we'll see you next week right here on the Stratosphere Lounge.